out, and then you log back in. So I log back in. Now you press sign in to log back in as a student, and you're going to have play solo practice or play team competition. You go back into the team competition, and this gets you back, to that first page. So you're in that competition, and you go to. There's really not much to fill out in this first page. The sales is really the first page that you're going to work on. Now, in this first page in sales, what you're going to do is you're going to have to fill out your sales decisions, your marketing decisions, your production decisions, and your finance decisions. So all these 4 departments have to work together to make a strategy that's going to hopefully sell cars in a way to make the most profits for your company compared to all your competitors. And this is a competitive game against all the other students in the class. So it's sort of like a game of Fortnite where we're all together in the same universe here, and your decisions and how well you do affects other companies. So you might be stealing sales from other companies, so your performance is going to be judged against your peers in the class. So each round, we have to wait for everybody to complete their work. It gets processed, and then you can see how your decisions stack up against the other students in the course. Now, of course, the first thing you should do is go to the very bottom and click on the student manual. This student manual will go over the simulation. It's a quick 15 pages or so. 15 pages. It just reviews the entire simulation, gives you important information like how to forecast the growth rates of the vehicles, the marketing media, and how to convert percentages of effectiveness into dollars, advertising slogans, strategies, production, capital structure, investments, everything, the basics of everything you need to know, including how the financial ratios are calculated, and this is what's going to generate points. So it's very important that you read over this student user guide. It shouldn't take more than a half an hour. Okay, so as I'm filling out the first round here, I'm going to be looking at the user guide, and then it explains to me that I need to design a new version of the car for the new sales year. So surveys are being done, and the surveys come back and give us customer expectations. What are they expecting in this vehicle, and how important is that to their buying criteria? So logically, things that are more important, I want to become higher on the expectation scale. You can go above the expectation scale or below the expectation scale, but that's probably going to disappoint investors. So as I put in my information, it's going to start developing costs, labor and material costs for the car, and then I could develop my pricing and my sales forecast. So right here is a big hint. At 36%, let me just say that everybody starts out, the average profit margin, if you go to the finance page, you'll see, if you look at under here, and you take net profits of, let's not do the gross profits of 48,000 divided by 128 million, and let's see, 48 million. Yeah, so if we take 48 million and we divide by 121 million, we're going to get about 40% is the starting gross profit margin. So if I'm on the sales page, I've gone below 40%, which is not good. But just like in real life, if my company delivers profit margins below what the current profit margins are, I'll be a failure, and probably the stock will crash and I'll be fired. So then I will maybe I'll increase the sales price to get that profit margin up, or maybe I'll decrease the one of the features to get that profit margin up. So I can play around with either the price or components to get that profit margin above 40%, which is what every year, and this is a strategy in real life, companies want to First, increase profit margins, increase profits, as well as increase sales. So if my sales were 1,750 cars last year, I go to the student manual and I see, okay, here's a 1,750 from year 0. Next year, the average sales they're estimating to be 2,188. So I'm just going to say 2,200 in my sales. So I could use, that's why the student manual is really great. It helps you to give you a baseline of what the sales are expected to be. If your cars are much better than the competitors, you should forecast higher. If you think your cars aren't as good as the competitors as far as attractiveness, you may want to forecast lower. That's part of the strategy. So, some people may make a car that's not that attractive to save money and make it more profitable, but then you're going to have to adjust your forecast lower to compensate for that. So one strategy could be a low-cost car with a lower volume, higher profit margins, or it might be a higher in-demand car by higher expectations and a higher price, or a lower price to make the car more in demand and you sell more on volume. So these are different strategies that you have to think about when you're playing the game. That's the whole point of the simulation game, is to really put the strategies that we're dealing with in the course into an environment that you can play around with and test these strategies and get a feel for how that's going to work. Okay, so again here, you can see my sales price and my features are going to be, these are producing a profit margin below 40%. So that's not good. So I'm going to look at something like this and say, okay, luxury features aren't that important, so let me make that lower so I can get above 40%. And maybe I'll raise my price a little bit to get that up. So I can play around with a couple things to make sure I'm over. And again, I go to the user guide, I see sedan 2600. So maybe I think mine's going to be a little bit better than average. And you just kind of rinse and repeat with this. Now, a couple of key things to consider that's important is, I'm going to just fill this out quickly. I'm not really thinking here anymore. So don't copy these. I'm just kind of getting this done quickly to finish the page. You only have about, I think, 40 or 45 minutes to complete this page. So you don't want to do half of it, walk away, and then come back later. So you want to make sure that when you complete the page, I'm just doing a couple last minute things here. You complete the page in one sitting because the page will quickly time out. So if you leave the page unattended and you don't make any changes on the page, I think after 40 minutes or so, the page will time out. So you want to make sure that you work pretty continuously on each page. You can keep the simulation open longer, but you don't want to just open a page, do half of it, have lunch, and come back. You'll find that it's timed out and your data, it only gets saved when you click on, and you can go back and make changes, of course, but it only gets saved when you click to submit sales data. If you don't click that submit sales data, and I see down here in the menu, if you forget your login information, there's a button here for that, and support if you have questions for them, the company. Okay, then you move on to marketing. So I suggest you go into the marketing section of the user guide, read that over. This age and income, this is really just, this I've found does not affect the actual sales outcome. So you could ignore this really. And then they give you the budget range. This is what most companies will be spending this year in advertising. So you have to match up, kind of look at so for economy, newspapers and television are the most effective. So then you spread your money out. And you make sure you cover the most effective areas first, and then you can kind of put less money in areas that are less effective for each of the areas to do your advertising budget. And you got to do this for each car. I'm not going to sit here and make you watch me do it for each car, but you get the idea. You get to spend the money in here, and this is what helps attract investors and steal customers away from helps attract the customers and maybe steal customers away from other competitors in this advertising area. And now I'm in the production button, And I see here I need to produce, I have 100 cars ready to go. I need to make, my sales forecast is 2,200. So I can look at this excess short. I'm short 2,100 cars. So if I want to build 2,100 cars, I'm going to need not one, but 2 production plants. Now that's kind of a waste, because if I look at my capacity, I'm building a production plant just to make 100 cars. So I'm going to go back to sales. And I'm going to lower my forecast to 2,100 here and submit that, and then go back to production. And now I'm just going to buy 1 production plant, because they're $10 million. I'm not going to spend $10 million just to make 100 cars. So now I can fulfill. And once you buy a production plant, you keep it. It doesn't go away, and you just keep building your capacity. So but you don't want to buy more than you need. Now the operational investments, I want to make some operational investments. And this, if you read this, it shows that it's going to reduce the cost of me manufacturing a car next year. Okay. So again, here, I only have the capacity to build 1,000 cars. I'm going to need actually 2 production plants. It's giving me a 3,000 car capacity, so I can make the 75 cars I need. And here's a hint: this excess shortage should always be 0. Don't have, don't build extra cars you don't need, and don't have a shortage. Build what you need to match your forecast, so your financials are more accurate in your forecasting. And again, I might want to buy some operational investments here for the future, and this will lower this is what companies do. They go in and they buy machinery, equipment, software, to improve efficiencies, reduce material costs, reduce labor, so the cost of making the car is less. So that way, when they have to build new features or spend more money to develop the car in the future, these investments will stick with you and keep paying dividends as it goes forward. So again, here I need to buy 1 production plant so I can make my 1,700 cars. Maybe make some operational investments. And I wouldn't copy exactly what I'm doing here. You got to make your own decisions. So I'm just kind of putting stuff, just kind of complete each of the cars. So once you're done, I hit submit and I move over to the finance page. So here's the capital structure area. This is the amount of debt I have and the amount of outstanding stock. So I'm going to look to see my pro forma. So this is last year's actual financial statement. This is next year's financial statement based on my forecast. Now, you've had financial statements and financial ratios in previous courses, such as whether you took it as an undergraduate or a graduate course or both, principles of finance, introduction to business, principles of accounting, maybe even, some other courses cover financial statements and financial ratios. So you should be versed in this as a graduate student already. So here is, and I see that my sales are increasing from last year and my net profits are increasing. Now this pro forma means maybe this is what you'll have next year if you sell everything you promised to sell. If you don't sell everything you forecasted, then these numbers will not come true. Sort of like a wish. So this is a forecasted financial statement. So I'm going to go all the way to the bottom, and I see that I have a cash deficit here of $3 million. Investors and banks and stock analysts don't like companies that have surprise deficits. So you should never have a deficit. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to borrow some money to make sure not only do I cover my deficit, I can cover so I'm borrowing $5 million, $7 million. So this gives me, I retired. That's a big boo-boo. I want additional funds. I don't want to retire funds. So yes, even Professor Nugent can make a mistake. But that's why I'm always double checking myself. So let me X this, move this over here. And I'm just going to put zeros here because I'm not retiring any funds. So now if I go to the bottom, I see I have a surplus. And I want to have a surplus of somewhere between $3 to $10 million to make up for, if I don't sell every car I promised to sell and my profits don't materialize, I still might have a surprise deficit. So now I'm going to complete year 1. So year 1 is completed, and I have to wait for all the other students in the class to complete their year 1, to make their team and complete their year 1 before the round is processed on the date. So this first round will be processed on May 26th. So you want to make sure that you have the simulation round 1 done before May 26th. You can always go back in to review your game and see what you did. And you'll see here, I have it, it says it's completed. I know I completed it, but I can go in and I can make changes to anything if I have second thoughts about something, and I can resubmit later. Next, what happens is after everyone completes their round, I will process all the teams together, and then I'll make a second video after the first round to review the results. So what you need to do now is go in, read over the student manual. I guess first, register for the simulation, create your team, complete round 1, and use the student manual to help you do that. In the meantime, you can also start testing yourself in the practice rounds. So to get back to the practice rounds, you would have to log out, sign back in, and the practice rounds are here. So you would go in and you could do some practice rounds, which are identical to the competition rounds, except you're playing against computer players, not real people. If you want to, you can even put the same inputs you put in the team game into the solo practice to kind of see, again, a basic idea of what the results will be. They won't be identical because the practice is against computer players and the team competitions against real players, but it'll be similar enough to discover any real big mistakes you might make. Okay, so that's my video to help you get started with the Zoom simulation. I think that you'll find this fun, interactive, and an exciting part of class that is, for many students, the favorite part of the class. They like the competition aspect of it. They feel like it really helps to bring to life a lot of the strategic examples we talk about in the course. So good luck, and I will be talking to you soon.